Some things never go out of fashion, although there are some that might cynically scoff at them as sentimental things like humanity, kindness, imagination, and fortitude in face of the most demanding trials and tribulations. Yes, you guessed that right. This quote is from the book called A Little Princess. Let us take a look at its summary and review in this Buzzle article. I just finished rereading A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I think I last read it some 10 years ago, but came across it again earlier today while rearranging my bookshelves. This book used to be a great favorite at one time, so it felt as thrilling as coming across an old friend once again. And, while intending to just read through a few pages, I sat there and read it all from start till the end. This riches to rags to riches story will leave you feeling good at the end. About the book. It is a little Bantam classic book with a blue cover with Sir John Millais' painting Nina on the front. This is, of course, a 1987 reprint. The book was originally published in 1905 and, like many of the other works by its author, most notably The Secret Garden, became an immediate bestseller. It is still a very good read, although far from being perfect. There are many obvious and rather incredible discrepancies, like the ages of the characters. Some grow older, while others apparently retain everlasting youth, and the oversensitive PC crowd will also, no doubt, find much to take offense at. It is after all a tale of an upper-class, rich, India-born, English girl set in the Victorian times, and so, of course, some of the attitudes are accordingly dated. Like the quote mentioned above and a generous sprinkling similar values without any cloying or sermonizing, I should add in the well-written, sometimes dreamlike prose that has made this book so well beloved over so many generations. A Little Princess. Sarah Crewe is 7 at the start of the story and has just arrived in England after a long voyage from India to be admitted into a boarding school, or rather, seminary for young ladies, run by a certain Miss Minchin. Sarah is an imaginative, clever child, much wiser, and self-reliant, and is the only, much-indulged daughter of the widowed Ralph Crewe. He is an army captain, stationed in India, and is young, merry-spirited, and exceedingly rich. He and Sarah have a very close bonding and are really not looking forward to be parted. But, as everyone knows, the climate of India was very bad for children, and it is customary as soon as possible to bundle them off to the cold and damp of England. No matter how heartbreaking it is, just a thing done, as Sarah tells her father, "Well, Papa, if we're here, I suppose we must be resigned." It doesn't look as if it is going to be easy to become resigned to Miss Minchin and her seminary, though. Sarah has a candid way of looking at things, and what she sees is a harsh place run by a harsh, vulgar, and fawning woman. She does not like her at all. She spends the next few days until his departure with her father in his hotel, and the two of them have a fine time spending a preposterous amount of money on quite preposterous things for Sarah. A magnificent wardrobe of fur-trimmed velvet dresses, muffs, and so on that probably no 7-year-old would think of having in present times, and given the peer pressure thing, probably shouldn't want either. But most important of all is the acquisition of Emily. Emily is a doll I haven't got yet. She is a doll Papa is going to buy for me. And she is important because she is going to be my friend when Papa is gone. I want her to talk to about him. Emily, as we will see, more than fulfills her expectations. At the seminary, Sarah soon becomes a star pupil. She has her own room, a French maid, a pony, and other things that the other pupils don't. So there is a lot of curiosity and resentment towards her. Fortunately, Sarah has a kind, generous disposition and a fine temper, and she soon settles in. She befriends the dull, but good-hearted Ermengarde, takes the spoiled but lovable lot under her wing, and makes life brighter for the overworked, underfed little scullery maid, Becky. She also becomes popular with the other girls for her general helpfulness, her attractive character, and her talent for imaginative storytelling. And because she likes to pretend to be a princess, so that I can try and behave like one, they all start calling her Princess Sarah. There is, however, no chance of any sympathetic bonding with the jealous Lavinia, the oldest student at the seminary, and the greedy, snobbish Miss Minchin. Sarah, however unintentionally, makes both of them feel inadequate and foolish, and there's nothing that antagonizes people more than the intimation of their own shortcomings. The years pass and soon it is Sarah's 11th birthday. Her father sends her the last doll and Miss Minchin arranges a party for all the girls. In the midst of the celebrations, Sarah's father's lawyer appears with the bad news that Captain Crewe is dead of jungle fever and moreover, has lost his entire fortune in speculating in a friend's diamond mine enterprise. The friend, having lost all the money, had apparently fled the scene and Captain Crewe, betrayed and crushed, had died worrying about his little girl. Miss Minchin at first cannot believe the awful news. Then, within minutes, she undergoes a remarkable change from fawning to furious, especially as the lawyer is quick to relieve his firm of any responsibility of the now orphaned and penniless Sarah, and furthermore, points out that Miss Minchin can't very well turn her off into the street as she wants to, since this won't look too good in public view. Miss Minchin, in a rage, decides that she will keep Sarah, but as a scullery maid come slave, and immediately sets about imparting Sarah with the news of her changed circumstances. To her intense annoyance, Sarah receives the news with a strange composure. She does not break down and cry as other children might. She seems almost relieved that she is to work for her living from now onwards. She calmly accepts all her possessions being confiscated by Miss Minchin and having to leave her comfortable room for the rat-infested attic. What is a bit harder to take is the suddenly changed way in which people, taking the cue from Miss Minchin, now regard her as now that she is no longer rich, she is no longer worthy of any respect. Sarah finds herself receiving more or less the same treatment as Becky. She is overworked, fed inadequately, sometimes even deprived of food altogether, and moreover, is made the butt of cruel jibes and ill-treatment. She grows thinner and her clothes become shorter, tighter, and shabbier. She is no longer recognizable as the little girl whom everyone once called Princess Sarah. Her tormentors relish this change. However, there are some things they have not contended with. Sarah's indomitable spirit and her rich imagination, and the steadfast loyalty of her three friends Becky, Ermengarde, and Lot. These sustain her in her bleakest moments. As Becky tells her, "Whatsever happens to you, whatsever, you'd be a princess all the same, and nothing couldn't make you nothing different." In her attic, Sarah also befriends the birds that hop on the roofs outside and a rat that scurries about her room. She derives comfort in talking to her doll, Emily. She likes to look out over the roofs and wonders about the attic opposite her own. She observes and starts liking a family living in the square and names them the Montmorencys. The youngest son of this family, taking her for a beggar, gives her his Christmas sixpence. Sarah is aghast to be taken for a beggar, but then she laughs and thanks him. The children, not expecting such a response from a beggar, become curious about her and start observing in turn the little girl who is not a beggar. They see her grow thinner and shabbier. One day, when she is especially starving, Sarah finds a fourpenny outside the baker's shop. As she goes inside to inquire if the money belongs to the baker, she sees a little girl outside who is even worse off than herself. The money does not belong to the baker woman, who, seeing Sarah's poor appearance, is both puzzled and interested that she should try to return money she obviously needs. Being a kind-hearted person, she gives her 6 instead of 4 buns in exchange. And then she is amazed to see Sarah leave and give 5 of these buns to the starving child outside. Touched by this incident, the woman fetches the child inside and later on takes her under her care. Meanwhile, an Indian gentleman has moved into the next house and the attic opposite Sarah's is now occupied by his Indian servant, Ram Das. Given her Indian background, she becomes very interested in them and befriends Ram Das. He, another kind-hearted soul, mentions her circumstances to his master Mr. Carrisford and they hatch a romantic plan to help the child. While she is asleep, they transform her attic into a comfortable, warm place and see to it that both she and Becky are well fed hereafter. It is like a dream coming true for the two little girls, and their flagging spirits revive. They stop feeling like two prisoners in the Bastille. Miss Minchin can't understand what is going on. She becomes especially alarmed when packages of expensive clothes arrive for the little girl in the right-hand attic. Perhaps they might be from an eccentric uncle who has just discovered Sarah's whereabouts, and this relative is not likely to look kindly upon the way Miss Minchin has been treating his niece, and so, belatedly, she starts behaving better. Now, it turns out that the rich and kind Mr. Carrisford is the very friend that Captain Crewe had trusted with his entire fortune. Thinking that he had lost his best friend's money, Tom Carrisford had become gravely ill and had only later found that the diamond mines, in which they had invested, were actually productive. In the meantime, though, Captain Crewe, thinking himself betrayed and destroyed, had passed away. Racked with grief and guilt and anxious to make amends, Mr. Carrisford and his lawyer Mr. Carmichael, who just happens to be the father of the Montmorency children, have been searching for Captain Crewe's daughter for the past 2 years. Little do they know that she is living and suffering right next doors until Sarah comes to return Ram Dass's monkey that had escaped and come into her attic, and Ram Dass brings her to meet the two men. The incredible discovery ends the story on a satisfactory note. Sarah, rich once more, now finds a home and a surrogate father in Tom Carrisford. Becky gets a home with her, and Miss Minchin, of course, gets her comeuppance. You close the book with a happy glow. For once it's not necessary to look at the world through rose-colored glasses, it actually is of a rosy hue.